Today we are going to learn about synthesizing data to see patterns in maps. This is the last lesson in our Principles of Geography unit. For your bell work, you will provide an example of information a map maker might choose to exclude or include in a map and why he would choose to include or exclude that information. So don't say something like, oh, well, a map maker is going to put roads so people know where to go. That's too obvious. I want you to think of what we learned about on Friday and how we looked at two different subway maps and how they were different based on the information that the map makers chose to include or exclude. So one of them included like the terrain, so you could see how far the lines really truly went. One of them excluded accurate information on how long the subway lines went, just so that he could simplify it. So you can just think of any map, just think of a place and think of a map of that place and what information might a map maker intentionally include or exclude, and why would they include or exclude that information. Go ahead and pause in order to do that. All right, so we are going to examine some images on the next couple of slides, and we've done this before, so you should become familiar with it. But in your notes, you're going to write, what did you see, think, and wonder for each. So if you haven't downloaded those notes, on the assignment on Canvas, there is a button that says Word Doc. Make sure you grab that, and you are going to record as we go along. So if you need to pause to go get that, then go ahead. Otherwise, we're going to start to look at the images. So this is source 12. It is the first image you are looking at today. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to in order to jot down what you wonder, what you see, what you're thinking in your notes. This is source 13. It's the second image that we are looking at today. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to in order to jot down your thoughts. This is source 14. It is the third and final image that we are viewing today. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to jot down your thoughts. So we are looking at question 1. So you are going to examine sources 12 and 13, and I'm going to pull them back up in the video so you don't need to rewind or anything. How does each map or image use color in order to convey information? So let's go ahead and forward, and we're going to look at sources 12 and 13. Again, you are writing down, how does each map use color to convey information? So for source 12, how does it use color? Pause if you need to. For source 13, how does this one use color to convey information? They are going to have a little bit different answers. Go ahead and pause if you need to. For question 2, we are looking at how does the way in which source 14 illustrates tornado intensity differ from the way in which sources 12 and 13 illustrated floods and droughts. So it's different. I'm telling you that. I want you to identify how it's different. And why would the creator of source 14 have done this? So we're going to move forward, and I'm going to bring up source 14. Go ahead and pause the video in order to answer the question. All right, our last question, question 3, says, to what extent can these maps help us understand continuity and change over time? This slide says be prepared to share, by the way. That's for people in class. You are not sharing if you're an e-learner. You're just recording your answer on your worksheet. So again, to what extent can these maps help us understand continuity and change over time? So what things are staying the same, that's continuity or continue, think about it like that, and what changes over time? How can these maps help inform future situations? What can they tell us in order for us to be prepared for the future? Go ahead and pause the video if you need to in order to answer question 3. All right, the two types of maps we've been looking at today are choropleth maps and proportional symbol maps. Choropleth maps use differences in shading, coloring, or placing of symbols to convey information. So really the source 12 and 13, the darker the color got, right? Proportional symbol maps use symbols that vary in size to represent a quantitative variable. So let's say they say, okay, here's a map of all the soccer fields in Florida, and we're going to put a little soccer ball for every city that has a soccer field. And the bigger the soccer ball, the more soccer fields are in that city. So in a moment, you're going to go ahead and go back to Canvas. Well, you should be on Canvas in the background. And click forward, and there's a quiz. And I'm going to show you 10 different maps. And you have to identify, is it a choropleth map? Is it using color and shading to convey information, or is it a proportional symbol map? So is it showing like different sized dots or different sized symbols in order to convey information?